Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 1. There's a dorm at Hollow Ridge University that no one ever requests to live in, not because it's run down or inconvenient, but because of what happened in room 733. Room 733 in Hollow Ridge Hall has been locked for over a decade. It's on the 7th floor, tucked away at the very end of the hallway. No one talks about it much anymore, but if you ask around long enough, especially among the seniors or janitorial staff, you'll eventually hear about Emily Carter. Back in 2010, Emily was a sophomore majoring in psychology. She was bright, friendly, and well-liked, but she had been struggling with insomnia for weeks. Her roommate said it started small. Emily would wake up around 3 a.m. every night, gasping, swearing she'd heard whispers coming from the ceiling vent. She started keeping the light on at night. Then she duct-taped the vent shut. Then she stopped sleeping altogether. Emily told her roommate, Jenna, that something was crawling in the walls. Jenna laughed at first, but then she started hearing things too. A soft dragging noise just above their heads that would move from one side of the room to the other, stop, and then thump 3 times. Always at 3:17 a.m. Jenna begged their RA to let them switch rooms. He told them there weren't any open spaces, but he'd file a report. 2 days later, Jenna moved out without warning. She never picked up her things, never responded to Emily's texts. Just gone. Emily started to spiral. She was seen talking to herself in the quad, jumping at shadows, obsessively sketching the same figure in all her notebooks, a gaunt, elongated creature with no face and twisted limbs. Her professors reported she stopped showing up to class. Campus security did a wellness check, but she assured them she was fine, just overwhelmed. 2 weeks later, a student in the room above 733 called the RA to complain that Emily had been knocking on the ceiling nonstop for hours. When the RA opened the door to room 733, he found the walls and ceiling covered in drawings. Hundreds of them. All in charcoal. All of the same faceless figure. Emily was in the corner, rocking back and forth. She had torn her mattress open and used the stuffing to try to plug every opening, vents, outlets, even the keyhole. She looked up at the RA and whispered, "It gets in through the gaps." That was the last anyone saw of her in that room. Campus officials removed her quietly, and room 733 was sealed shut. No announcement. No explanation. But students who live in Hollow Ridge Hall still whisper about it. Some say if you walk past room 733 at exactly 3:17 a.m., you'll hear scratching inside. Others claim they've heard whispering through the vents late at night, words they can't quite understand, until the whispering stops and the thumping begins. A freshman last year tried to force the door open as a dare. He laughed it off at first, but his roommate said he started sleeping with headphones on. A week later, he dropped out without warning. The university still lists Hollow Ridge Hall as having 139 rooms. But students who live there know the truth. There are 140 and one of them was never empty. Story number 2. At a small liberal arts college tucked deep in the forests of Oregon, there's an old dorm building called Elmsworth Hall. It's one of the original campus buildings, built back in the 1920s, creaky floors, antique light fixtures, and windows that rattle whenever the wind picks up. Most students steer clear of it, opting for the newer dorms, but every year, a few unlucky freshmen get placed there. In 2016, a girl named Natalie moved into Elmsworth after a last-minute dorm reassignment. Her roommate had dropped out unexpectedly, and the housing office put her in room 104, alone. She was irritated at first, but quickly came to enjoy the privacy, until the night started getting weird. The first thing she noticed was the mirror. It was an old wall-mounted piece, bolted above the desk. The glass was slightly warped, the kind of mirror that makes your face look just subtly off. But what really unnerved her was that every morning when she woke up, the mirror seemed just a little higher on the wall. At first, she thought she was imagining it. But by the 4th day, she had to stand on her toes to see her reflection. She asked the RA about it, but he just shrugged and said, "That mirror's been there for years. No one's touched it." When she asked to have it removed, he told her it was against building policy, it was considered a historic fixture. That night, Natalie went to bed uneasy. Around 2 a.m., she woke to the sound of soft tapping. Not from the door. From the mirror. She sat up, heart pounding, and stared at it in the dim light of the desk lamp. The mirror looked normal, until she realized she could see a figure behind her. A tall, pale shape standing in the reflection, even though the space behind her was completely empty. She turned around. Nothing. When she looked back at the mirror, the figure was gone. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, the mirror was even higher. Now completely out of reach. Over the next few days, the tapping continued. Always at 2 a.m. Natalie started recording it on her phone. But when she played the audio back the next day, all she heard was static, and something faint in the background. Breathing. She covered the mirror with a towel. It was ripped down the next night. Finally, Natalie couldn't take it anymore. She decided to remove the mirror herself. She pried at the bolts with a screwdriver and managed to pull it off the wall. What she found behind it still keeps her in therapy to this day. There was no wall behind the mirror. Just a hollow space. A rectangular cutout, like a recessed box. Inside was what looked like a small, wooden chair, and scratch marks. Deep, erratic gouges along the back of the space. Tufts of hair. And a dark stain on the floor of the box. Campus security came. The room was sealed. Natalie was moved to another dorm and refused to talk about it afterward. But someone in maintenance leaked a detail that spread around campus fast. When they measured the space behind the mirror, it was over 6 feet deep. Too deep for any normal wall cavity. And when they reviewed the building's original blueprints, Room 104 wasn't supposed to exist at all. Now, every year, some freshmen still end up in Elmsworth. And when they do, upperclassmen warn them with the same quiet, uneasy tone. If your mirror starts moving, don't wait. Get out. Story number 3. There's a rumor that goes around during orientation week at Black Hollow University, one that's always told half-jokingly, like a ghost story at a campfire. But it always ends the same way. Don't take the elevator in Harlan Hall after midnight. Most students laugh it off. Harlan's an old dorm with flickering lights and that permanent mildew smell, but it's not haunted supposedly. Still, after what happened to Malik Thompson in 2019, no one really jokes about it anymore. Malik was a transfer student. Quiet, kept to himself, but friendly when approached. He got placed on the 6th floor of Harlan Hall, one of the top floors, and notoriously annoying to hike up because the elevator was ancient and barely functional. Students said it would creak, stall, or sometimes skip floors entirely. Maintenance kept saying it was fine. Malik didn't like the elevator much either. It made strange groaning sounds, like something dragging along the shaft. But one night, after pulling a late shift at the library, he was too tired to take the stairs. It was 12:03 a.m. He pressed the button. The elevator arrived with a slow ding. He stepped inside, alone. He hit the button for floor 6. But the elevator didn't go up. Instead, it went down. At first, he thought maybe someone below had called it. But the elevator kept going. Past the lobby. Past the basement. Then the numbers on the panel went blank. And then it stopped. The doors opened. What Malik saw wasn't another floor. It was a narrow, concrete hallway, dimly lit by flickering fluorescent lights. There were no doors, just stained concrete walls and a wet, distant dripping sound. He should have stayed inside. But curiosity, or something else, pulled him out. He walked for what felt like minutes, but the hallway never changed. The dripping grew louder. Then came the whispers. Soft, low, as if dozens of people were just around the corner, speaking in a language he didn't know. The hallway grew colder. When he finally turned around, the elevator was gone. Panicked, he ran, shouting, banging on walls, trying to find where he came from. Eventually, he saw a door. A rusted, heavy metal one. It wasn't marked, but he flung it open. And suddenly, he was back in the elevator. Standing exactly as he had before. The doors hadn't even finished closing. He stumbled out on the 6th floor, heart racing. He didn't sleep that night. Or for many nights after. The next morning, he told the RA everything. She chalked it up to a dream, or a stress-induced hallucination. But when she pulled the security footage to reassure him, her face went pale. The video showed Malik entering the elevator at 12:03 a.m. It didn't show him leaving until 1:17. An hour and 14 minutes had passed. But the elevator never moved. The doors never opened. The footage was silent, but at the 57-minute mark, Malik began screaming. He dropped out of Black Hollow by the end of the semester. Moved back home. Wouldn't respond to messages. Deleted all his socials. Now, every year during orientation, someone repeats his story. Most students laugh. But no one, takes the elevator in Harlan Hall after midnight. Story number 4. Back in 2013, there was a quiet kid named Drew who started his freshman year at a small university in Vermont. He wasn't the partying type, didn't care for sports, just wanted to get his degree and move on. They assigned him to an old co-ed dorm called Coldmere Hall, a brick building from the 1800s that once served as a tuberculosis clinic, though the college avoided advertising that part. Drew's room was on the 3rd floor, room 312. It was small and oddly shaped, with a slanted ceiling and a single window that looked out onto a patch of dead trees. His roommate, Kyle, was rarely around, always crashing with friends or at his girlfriend's place, so Drew had most nights to himself. Within the first week, Drew noticed something strange. Every morning when he woke up, his desk chair would be turned to face the window. At first, he blamed Kyle. But Kyle swore he hadn't been back in days. After a while, Drew stopped moving it back. It always turned again. Always pointing toward the trees. Then came the tapping. It started one night around 3 a.m. Just a single, faint tap on the window. He figured it was a branch in the wind. But the next night, it happened again. A rhythmic tap tap tap. Always 3 knocks. Same time. Every night. The creepy part. The window was on the 3rd floor, and there were no tree branches anywhere near it. He tried ignoring it, even shoved his dresser in front of the window once. But the tapping came anyway. Louder. Angry. Then he started dreaming. Not normal dreams, always the same one. He was standing in the woods behind the dorm, barefoot, staring up at the building. Someone, or something, was in his room, standing at the window, staring down at him. One night, he jolted awake from that dream and realized his feet were freezing. When he looked down, they were covered in dirt. Real dirt. Leaves stuck between his toes. Terrified, Drew set up a camera on his desk to record overnight. He watched the footage the next morning with shaking hands. Everything was normal for the first few hours. Then, at exactly 3:03 a.m., the chair turned on its own. Slowly. Deliberately. Then came the tapping. Except this time, the sound wasn't coming from the outside. It was coming from inside the room. From inside the closet. The door creaked open by itself. Drew slammed the laptop shut and ran straight to campus security. They brushed it off as a prank. When he showed them the footage, they claimed it was tampered with, even accused him of editing it for attention. 2 days later, Drew was gone. His RA found the room completely empty, no clothes, no books, no laptop. The window was open. The desk chair was missing. But if you go to Coldmere Hall today, some students say room 312 is never truly empty. Maintenance keeps trying to close it off, but every time they lock the door, someone reports hearing the tapping again. From the inside. And sometimes, if you pass by the room after midnight, you might see someone sitting in that chair by the window. But don't wave. It always waves back.